What could be bad? Because I haven't done anything. Oh, and I forgot to do it. Oh, it's probably Thursday.
Okay, let's go ahead and start the class. Welcome to Lab 2, Mechanical Engineering Lab 2. My name is Mustafa Mufti. I'm going to be the instructor for the course. And we are going to have a very short lecture today. We are going to talk about the labs we're going to do, the lab report policies, and everything you need to do for this course. I assume, this is, I think, a certain assumption that you have passed Lab 1 before coming to this class. This is going to be very different from Lab 1 in the number of the labs specifically. We are going to have 10 labs. We are going to have 2 numerical labs. And the workload is going to be a little different. Things you're going to learn are also going to be a little bit different. And so let's begin talking about the class. Office hours for the class are going to be Wednesdays 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. There is no textbook. There are no textbooks for the course. You just have to rely on the lecture notes and the lab instructions and your TA and my instructions. You have to check Blackboard regularly. Whatever you need to do for the lab is going to be posted on Blackboard. The lab instructions and the lab report submission is also done on Blackboard. And we're going to have 3 lab quizzes that will be given on Blackboard as well. So all submissions are made on Blackboard. If you have any questions, please stop me and ask your questions. The lecture schedule, you have done the Lab 1 already, so you know that we don't really have, put any emphasis on the lectures for these lab courses. The emphasis is given to the labs. We are going to have only one lecture that is going to discuss the lab, discuss the theory and how to do the lab, and that will be given on Mondays every week, except for next week because there is no classes on Monday next week. We are going to have a class, a lecture, so we're going to see each other here next week on Wednesday, only Wednesday. Every other lab lecture is going to be given on Mondays. Wednesdays are put aside for you to study the lab instructions and also go over the lecture notes. And on Fridays, we will be given a pre-lab quiz. These pre-lab quizzes are, you don't really have to calculate anything. It's just to make sure that you have studied the lab instructions and you're prepared to do the labs after. So there will be some questions about the equipment you're going to use, about the lab instructions. I may ask you what equations do you need to use to do this calculation for the next week's lab, and these sort of things. And all of these will be multiple choice questions. All of this will be posted on Blackboard. And we have the syllabus ready, everything is ready to go. The reason I haven't uploaded this material on Blackboard, I haven't uploaded this material on Blackboard yet, is because there is a small issue with the course Blackboard that is supposed to be fixed today. So by the end of the day today or early morning tomorrow, you will see all of this posted on Blackboard, course Blackboard. And so, lectures on Monday, and then you don't really have to come to class on Wednesdays except for next week's Wednesday. And but you have to spend time studying the lab material, lab instructions. And then on Friday there will be a pre-lab quiz that will be, you will have 50 minutes to give the quiz, but the quiz will be open on Blackboard throughout Friday. So you don't have to come to class on Wednesday or Fridays. You can just do whatever you need to do at home or wherever you want. Do you have any questions? Okay. So, lab schedule. We are going to start the first lab in 2 weeks. And the first lab is going to be an Euler buckling lab. Then the lecture for this lab will be given next Wednesday. So the only time we have a class on Wednesday is going to be next Wednesday. We're going to move on to the heat transfer lab, vibration, the second manufacturing lab. You guys have never had a manufacturing lab, but people who are taking lab 1, manufacturing 1 lab, but people who are taking lab 1 this semester have a manufacturing 1 lab. They do 2 different things. If you are interested to know more about 3D printers, you can reach out to me and make an appointment with your TAs and do whatever they do for lab 1. But that won't be a part of the course. We are going to move on to a strain field measurement system. So you in your lab 1, you have had a strain gauge lab, which you use a small device. Right? And what was the device called? Does anyone remember? You had the strain gauge lab, you had the load cell, and strain gauge. Yeah. Use the load cell and a strain gauge. Be confident in yourself. A strain gauge to measure the strain and the load at one point with the DIC system, which is a system that was invented, I guess perfected in our department 30 years ago. We are going to make all of these measurements throughout a field, right? They're going to move on to a computational fluid dynamics lab. This is going to be a numerical lab. We're going to come to the class, learn how to use the software, and then you are going to have 1 week to do the lab on your own time. You're going to have to go to the lab sections and submit the report. And then after a spring break, you're going to come back to the computational mechanics lab. For these 2 labs, we are going to use ANSYS software. We're going to move on to the tensile test. A second internal lab in which you are going to, we are going to discuss this in more detail, but you are going to use your design for CFD and computational lab in the VTEL to do a dynamic drag analysis, essentially. And then we are going to finish with a simple control lab. Those of you, I guess all of you are going to take or have already taken a mechatronics course. This is going to be, all of the control lab we do is going to be in the same line as all of the labs we did for the mechatronics, just a little bit. Our focus is going to be a little different lab. And that will be it. We will be done with this class on, with all of the labs on April 5th. Okay. And you will have to do a final project after submitting all of the lab reports. This final project is essentially going to be an extension to your numerical labs. So you just have to combine the computational dynamics and computational mechanics lab to do this project. The guideline about the project will be posted later in a month or so. And you just have to submit a final report. There is no presentations necessary at this time. I may decide to ask you to do a presentation and later, but you will know about this 2 months in advance, at least 1.5 to 2 months in advance. And the lab report will be due on April. The final project report will be due on April 15th, I think. We have the deadlines later. Any questions so far? Okay, it's crystal clear. Yes. Okay. Each lab will have 2 or 3 teams, and you will be assigned a team by your TA during the first lab. You will be assigned to a team during the first lab. But if you are interested in working with your friends, you can just ask the TA to put you and your friends in the same team. Teams can have 3 to 4 students, so up to 4 students, and these teams are the teams you're going to have for your final project as well. You cannot change teams. Like if you join a team in the first lecture, this will be your team to the end of the class and for the final project. if you have a complaint about your peers, about your teammates, you have to reach out to me and your TA before the deadlines. Let's say your teammate is not helping you for lab report, the first lab report, and you will not be able to finish the lab in time, or you will not be able to submit a good quality lab report. You have to reach out to me before the deadline. After the deadline, after your work is graded, your complaints are not going to be effective, are not going to count for anything, essentially, right? And if you reach out to me and tell me that your peers are not pulling their weight, what's going to happen to them is they are going to lose 50% of that specific grade. Let's say you submit a lab with your lab report with your team, you get 3 out of 4. Lab reports are worth 4 points. We're going to talk about that later. Let's say you get a 3 out of 4. The teammate that has not contributed that much will receive 1.5. And we are going to make sure to give feedback and comment away to keep your anonymity. Make sure that you remain anonymous. And yeah. Any questions? Let's move on. So class policies. Lectures, the Monday lectures specifically are going to be recorded and posted online. Attendance in the lectures Mondays is not mandatory. You don't have to come to class. But I would say, as a rule of thumb, it is always a good idea to come to class because we might make announcements, we might make changes in the class, and changes we make to classes whether in class is official, right? If you don't come to class, if you miss a change and you lose some points because of that, you have no right in complaining to me about not knowing about the change, essentially. So it is your responsibility to come to class to know about the changes, but you don't have to attend, and all of these will be posted online. But attendance in the lab is mandatory, and each lab is going to be attendance in each lab is going to be worth 1 point. That's 1 point of your final grade. If you miss a lab without an acceptable excuse, you will lose the attendance point, you will also lose the lab report points, and the pre-lab quiz points. So you will lose 6 points, not just 1 point, right? You cannot come to me and tell me I missed the lab, but I'm going to help with the lab. That is not going to work. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Late submissions are not accepted at all. If you miss a submission deadline, then without a justifiable excuse, you will get a 0. And you must follow the correct formatting. Correct formatting is very important. Lab report format is a little different from Lab 1's formatting. So you have to submit 10 lab reports. It's too much work, right? So I wanted to make sure that everybody spent a lot of time in writing, right? Then we are going to have 2 parts to the lab reports. A written part that is going to be a maximum 2 pages. That's a single column 2 page. It can be, that doesn't include the title page. So in addition to title page, you're going to have to write maximum of 2 pages. It can be 1 page. All right. We are going to talk about all of the things you need to include. But again, it cannot be more than 2 pages. The font size and everything must be 11. The font type is going to be calibri, single space, single column. Margins are 1 inch from each side. If you do not follow the formatting, you will get a 0 on the lab report. Just have to be very precise. And after the written part, you will include all of the graphs and tables you need to include. And the only requirement I have for the graphs is that they have to be self-explanatory and tables. So they have to have legends, they have to have titles, and all of the axes have to be labeled. So if I look at a graph or a table of yours, I have to understand what it is, what you have done, without any further explanation. Any questions? Yes.
Do we have to use any types of citation for our work?
We are going to discuss this. Yeah, you have to do references. Yeah, you have to. Okay, what do you need to include in the written part of the lab? It has to start with a title page. Title page has to have a title, name of the author, name of the class, name of the instructor, name of the TA, and date. And we are going to move on to an abstract. An abstract is essentially just a briefing of the whole thing, what you did, how you did it, and what were the results. As far as I'm concerned, it can be only 3 sentences if you can convey the message in just 3 sentences. Again, the written part, I want it to be as short as possible. Okay? And then you're going to move on to the introduction from abstract. Introduction, just have to discuss in 1 paragraph what is the goal of the lab and where you're going to use the knowledge you have learned in the lab and what are the reasons for uncertainty in the lab that you're doing. You're going to move on to the procedure. How did you do the lab? And how are you going to do the analysis, like the equation and calculations, the statistical analysis for the lab. And you're going to move on to the results section. This is the written part of the results section. Just have to explain your graphs and tables and whatever, again, in 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs maximum. And that's it. You're going to move on to the conclusion and references. You have to follow the AIAA formatting. The reason I use AIAA formatting is because AIAA guidelines for referencing is a little more popular than ASM is. But if you want to use ASM, that is alright. You just have to say I've used ASM in your lab reports. And again, maximum 2 pages. If you can do anything in 1 page or half a page, I don't think it can be done. But if you can, power to you. Do it. I don't want you to spend like 2 days on just writing your report. Any questions? Okay. Of course, your TAs are going to grade these reports. They're going to read what you've written. And it is supposed to be short, so it is not going to be too much work for them to read them. And they are going to deduct points based on the quality of the writing. I don't have a very clear guideline for grading the written part of the report. I'm just going to let the TA decide what to do. But if you have an issue with the grade you have received, you are welcome to contact the TA first and then contact me. I will regrade and talk to your TA and regrade your report. And you will receive feedback from your TAs. But if you think your feedback is not adequate, reach out to the TA, talk to the TA. You're going to see your TA every week. So, and you are going to be with the same TA throughout the semester. It is not like Lab 1 that you're going to meet a new TA each week. So you're going to have the same TA throughout the semester. So you will get to know them, hopefully. But if you fail to include any of the sections, you will get a 0 on the lab report. If you fail to have the correct referencing, you will get a 0. If your calculations are wrong, nonsensical, or if you have used the incorrect equations or method, you will get a 0. If you don't follow the formatting, you will get a 0. And if you fail to upload, I have to change this. Failure to upload the PDF for me. I guess I should get a 0 on this one myself. If you fail to upload the PDF file, you will again get a 0. These are super easy things to follow, right? And if you don't follow them, there's no excuse, you will be still 0, no matter how much work you have put in your lab report. Any questions so far? No. Okay, so due dates. Let's talk about the due dates. As I said, you are going to have pre-lab quizzes, and the point of a pre-lab quiz is for you to make sure that you have read through the lab instructions and the lecture notes. So you have watched the lecture, you have been in the lecture, right? The point of it is not for you to do any calculations or to learn solid mechanics or fluids or whatever, right? You have to know the equations you want to use for your calculations, but you don't have to use them to do any calculation for the quizzes, right? You will get 50 minutes. There will be, I will make sure that the quiz is open throughout the day, but you will only have 50 minutes to submit your answers. You are not supposed to work with your teammates on these quizzes, but I guess I have no way of checking, right? So do whatever you want to do. And you can take the quiz anywhere, you don't have to be in class. I won't be here on Friday or Wednesday, so you can just use the space if you want. We'll be in my office though. If you have a question, you can come to my office and ask questions. And lab reports will be due the Friday after the week of the lab. So this is a typical lab. You come to the lecture on Monday, you read the lab instructions on Wednesday, on your own time. And then you take the quiz on Friday, Monday, after, the week after, whenever your lab section is, you will do the lab, and then the week after the lab, you have to, on Friday at the end of the day, you have to submit the lab report. Okay? So you will get at least 8 days to submit the lab reports. I will make sure that your TAs grade your lab reports in less than a week. So you have the results of your lab reports in less than a week. Your final report will be graded by me. Okay. And as I said, final project is due on Sunday, April the 14th, at the end of the day, which is essentially the Sunday before the last week of classes. So hopefully it will be done before the last week of classes. Any questions? And these are the due. I don't have it. I will include the due dates. I will update this, but I will include all of the due dates for all the pre-lab quizzes and the lab course in a table and add it to this PowerPoint. But they are already on the syllabus. So whenever I upload the syllabus, you are going to see all of the deadlines. And the assessment criteria, the lab reports are going to be 40%, 10 lab reports, so each lab report is going to be worth 4%. 3 lab quizzes are going to be worth 20% total, 2% each 3 lab quiz. Attendance in the lab is worth a total of 10 points, so 1 point each lab, and your final project is going to be worth 30% of the whole final grade. And there is also an option to earn, I guess, bonus credit if you submit your course evaluation and send me the receipt of submission. Just the receipt of submission of the evaluation itself. You will receive an additional 5%. So if for whatever reason you miss one of the labs or 2 of the labs, you can make up for it. 5%. Any questions? No questions? Okay. The location of each lab is also going to be posted on the syllabus. Yes, you have a question? Nick, right? Nicholas, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is there any final exams or is it just the project?
There is no exams, no. Just the project. So I don't really give any final exams in any of my courses. But it doesn't make any sense for the last course. Yeah.
Should we have the quiz this Friday?
No quiz this Friday. Right. So we are going to have the first 3 lab quiz next week's Friday. Again, next week's Wednesday, we are going to have the only time we have a lecture. It is the only time we have a lecture on a Wednesday. And we're going to talk about Euler buckling. I assume all of you have passed mechanics of solids. When you're sitting here, so you at least have heard the name buckling. But it's all right if you don't remember anything happens. We are not talking about the theory. I'm gonna tell you what to do from the lab. Any other questions? Yes.
So I'm assuming there's no class for us this week.
There is no class this for the rest of the week. The next time we see each other is going to be next week's Wednesday.
So when's our first lab?
It is going to be week 3 of the classes, so when is your last session?
Class on Tuesdays.
On Tuesday, so January 23rd.
Okay.
We don't have class next Monday.
There is no class whatsoever. This is a much sweeter.
So sorry.
There are no classes. So even if you don't have a class next Monday, it is because there is no classes next Monday at all. Okay, if there are no more questions, that's it for today's class. See you all next Wednesday.